There are stories that seem to belong only to childhood, yet when we grow up, they reveal a whole new meaning. This is not just the tale of a beautiful young woman and a terrifying beast, but a journey to discover the beauty hidden beneath an ugly shell. A story about a love strong enough to dissolve loneliness and fear. Tonight, join me as we listen to the timeless story, Beauty and the Beast. Once upon a time, in a bustling coastal city, there lived a wealthy merchant. He owned grand ships filled with silk, pearls, and rare spices brought from distant lands. His home was so magnificent that many people in the city called him the crownless king of the harbor. This merchant had 6 sons and 6 daughters. Among them, the youngest, a girl named Belle, stood out from the rest. Unlike her sisters, who loved makeup, fine dresses, and extravagant parties, Belle was simple and kind. She loved reading books and could spend hours listening to the whisper of the wind outside her window. Because of her gentle spirit, everyone affectionately called her Beauty. Life seemed destined to remain prosperous forever until a storm struck without warning. The merchant's ships were swallowed by the sea, and all his goods were lost. In an instant, their wealth disappeared. The servants left, the grand mansion was sold, and the family was forced to move into a small wooden house in the countryside. Belle's sisters wept endlessly. Why must we live like common folk? We were born to wear silk and gold. But Belle simply smiled and said softly, "As long as Father is still with us, and we still have each other, that is what truly matters." From that day on, Belle took care of everything, tending the fire, cooking meals, washing clothes, and caring for the small garden. Though her days were filled with hard work, she never lost her gentle smile. One day, the merchant received news that one of his ships had miraculously escaped disaster and had docked at the port. Hope rose in his heart, and he set out to reclaim the cargo. His daughters hurriedly instructed their father to buy them dresses, jewelry, and precious gems. Only Belle smiled faintly and said, "Father, I only wish for a single red rose, because in our countryside, there are no flowers that bloom in the middle of winter." The merchant was moved and embraced his youngest daughter. However, when he reached the port, he discovered that the ship had been seized by creditors. Returning empty-handed, he walked home with a heavy heart. On the road, a fierce snowstorm blew in, forcing him to lose his way and stumble into a grim forest. After hours of wandering, he suddenly came upon a magnificent castle, its light warm and steady like a lighthouse in the cold night. He went inside and was astonished to find a table set for a feast, but no people in sight. Starving, he sat down and was served as if by invisible hands. After the meal, he fell asleep on a soft bed. The next morning, as he was preparing to leave, he noticed a brilliant rose garden. Remembering his promise to Belle, he picked a single rose. Immediately, a monstrous creature appeared, huge and shaggy, its eyes blazing like fire. It roared, "Whoever dares to steal my rose will pay with his life." The merchant trembled and begged, explaining that he had only wanted the rose for his youngest daughter. At this, the beast's gaze softened for a moment, then he growled, "Very well, I will spare you this once. But in return, You must bring that youngest daughter here to pay for you." Terrified, the merchant was forced to agree. That afternoon, the sky was heavy with clouds, and the wind howled through the tall pine trees like a mysterious warning. Belle rode beside her father, silently following the narrow trail covered in a thin layer of snow. Behind them, their humble wooden home was now nothing more than a fading brown speck in memory. Ahead, the castle loomed like a dark, brooding shadow in the forest, its golden windows glowing like watchful eyes. Her father choked up, whispering, "Belle, I am so sorry." Belle took his hand and shook her head gently. "I have made my choice, father. Do not torment yourself anymore. I am not here to pay a debt, but to keep a promise, one that comes from my own heart." The gate opened on its own, its hinges creaking like an ancient sigh. They stepped into the grand hall. The fireplace crackled softly. The table was already set with gleaming crystal glasses and spotless white linen. Yet, as before, there was no one inside, only the faint sense of invisible footsteps moving gracefully to prepare everything for their guests. When the clock struck, the beast appeared at the end of the corridor. His long black cloak swept across the stone floor. His eyes were deep and fierce, but not entirely dark. Belle stood tall and did not back away. Her father dropped to his knees, pleading. The beast spoke, his voice low and rough, like an old mill turning through endless seasons. "I keep my word. You are free to go, but she will stay." Belle embraced her father one last time, trying to remember the scent of wood and smoke on his coat. The kiss on her forehead felt like a seal pressed on the final page of an old book, closing one chapter and opening another. Her father left in tears. The wind rose at the gate, then fell silent. That first night, Belle was led to a room bathed in soft shades of blue. There were silk curtains, shelves of books, and a large window overlooking a garden of roses. On the table sat a velvet box inside, a single red rose, fresh as if just picked. She touched it gently. The petals were warm like human skin. Beneath the box lay a small note that read simply, "I am sorry." In the days that followed, a strange rhythm of life took shape. Each evening, the beast appeared always on time, always at the same place, but never too close. They talked more and more about books, about the sea, about faraway lands that the beast only knew from maps, and Belle knew from words. When she spoke of the sound of waves hitting the harbor, the beast listened like a child hearing a fairy tale for the first time. Sometimes he would ask, "Belle, will you dine with me tonight?" The question came again and again, and each time she nodded. She realized the beast was not afraid of silence, he was afraid of rejection. That thought softened her heart. One morning, as the snow melted into thin streams running along the stone ledges, Belle wandered to the western garden. There, among the rose bushes, stood a broken statue, the face of a young prince, chipped on one side, yet the stone eyes still held a gentle kindness. At the base, the faint inscription read, "Learn to see beyond the surface." That evening, Belle asked about the statue. The beast paused for a long moment. The fire popped softly, like the beat of a heart. The young and the proud often love only what is beautiful, he said, until they lose the ability to see beauty in others. Belle understood, but said nothing more. She noticed that, despite its grandeur, the castle was bound by invisible rules. Certain doors were always locked, certain hallways always cold, as if the entire place was under a curse. Not just the beast himself. That night, for the first time, the beast asked something different. Belle, do you find me too frightening? Belle looked up, meeting his dark golden eyes. At first, yes, she said softly. But when we talk, I see someone who is trying. The beast turned away, his breath quiet. Outside, the forest wind had stopped its howling. Inside the castle, winter had taken one small step back. Spring crept back gently. The rose garden opened its eyes. Golden sunlight draped softly over everything, like a silken shawl. Belle and the beast began to share small habits, strolling through the garden in the afternoons, reading after dinner, and sometimes sitting quietly by the window, listening to the rain. In those quiet moments, Belle could see that behind the thick fur and the great shadow was a lonely soul. Someone who had learned to wait for each of her nods as if it were a small blessing. One evening, the beast led Belle to the mirror room where the castle kept an ancient mirror that could show whatever the heart most desired. What do you wish to see? The beast asked. Belle hesitated, then whispered, My family. The mirror rippled like a pond struck by a pebble. It revealed their small wooden house, her father coughing weakly, her sisters in panic, the hearth gone cold. Her father was gravely ill. Belle touched the mirror's surface, her fingers meeting the chill, her eyes burning with tears. I must go, she said, her voice breaking. My father needs me. A long silence filled the room, stretching like a thread between them. Finally, the beast nodded slowly, as if every motion weighed as much as life and death. Go to him, he said. But come back. He took off the chain from around his neck and placed in her hand a golden ring engraved with a rope. Turn the ring and make your wish. It will bring you back here. Only, please, do not make me wait too long. Belle took his hand. It was warm like a stone that had basked in the sun all day, rough but steady. I promise, she whispered. She left the castle under a violet sky heavy with sorrow. When she arrived home, she found her father lying weak in bed. Belle nursed him with simple things, warm water, porridge, and stories about the rose garden and the crackling fire. Slowly, he recovered, and the gentle smile returned to his lips. But rumors spread faster than health could return. Belle lives with a wealthy beast, people whispered. He keeps her prisoner but showers her with silk, and she has fallen under a dark spell in the deep forest. Each word was a thorn piercing her heart. Her two sisters, beautiful yet envious, plotted to keep her home longer. I will go back soon, Belle said. I made a promise. A promise to a monster? They sneered. Why stay loyal to that when you could have a real life here? But Belle knew that a promise was not just ink on paper, it was a thin thread connecting two hearts, fragile but strong. She planned to leave the next morning. That night, Belle dreamed a strange dream. She saw the western garden withered, the roses drooping, and in the pool of darkness lay the beast motionless beneath the broken statue, his eyes closed like doors no one would ever return through. She woke with a start, her palms slick with sweat. Her heart pounded like galloping hooves before a storm. "I must go back now," she said to her father at dawn. He held her hand, understanding without a word. Belle turned the ring and whispered, "Take me back to my promise." A strange wind swept through the room. The curtains rose like wings. When she opened her eyes, she was in the grand hall again. The fireplace was dead cold, the portraits coated in grey dust. The castle, once solemn, now felt abandoned, as if it had been asleep for 100 years. Belle ran through the corridors, up the spiral stairs, past the doors that opened as if expecting her. In the western garden, she found the beast lying beneath the shattered statue of the prince. His color, once deep as night, had turned to the hue of ashes. Belle fell to her knees, her hands trembling as she lifted his head. "I am here. I came back," she sobbed. "I am sorry I was late." His golden eyes fluttered open, a faint smile crossing his face so small it was almost just a thought. "I knew you would return," he breathed. "I only feared that once you saw who I truly am, you would not want someone like me." Belle shook her head, tears falling like the season's first rain. "I need you, not for your castle, nor your magic. I need you because you learned to be gentle even while carrying your loneliness, because you kept your word and taught me to keep mine." A sudden wind stirred. The roses in the garden trembled as if listening. The beast closed his eyes, his breath growing thin. "Belle, if you are still here, tell me you are not afraid of me." Belle held his head tightly against her chest, as if cradling a fragment of the fading night. "I am not afraid," she whispered. "I am only afraid of being too late." Thunder rolled above the sky. Somewhere unseen, the ancient clock struck once a single note, like a command to open the final door. Belle leaned close and whispered into his ear, "I love you. Stay." And when those words fell into the stillness, the entire garden hushed, so quiet that one could hear the sound of a single rose unfurling. In Belle's arms, the beast grew still. His fierce face seemed to sink into shadow, and his breath faded away. Belle wept uncontrollably, her voice trembling but firm. "I love you. Do you hear me? I love you no matter what form you take, no matter what curse the world may cast upon you. I will still choose you." Those final words rang out like a sacred bell, and then the magic began. The sky blazed with light. Golden flashes poured down upon the garden. The broken statue shattered into 100 pieces, dissolving as if it had never been. The castle trembled not with cold or darkness, but with the warmth of rebirth. In Belle's embrace, the beast's body began to change. His thick fur turned to glowing dust and disappeared. His claws drew back, and his golden eyes shifted into a deep, gentle blue. Belle stepped back in astonishment. Before her no longer stood a monster, but a young prince with brown hair, kind eyes, and a smile filled with gratitude and love. Belle. His voice quivered softly, clear as the notes of a harpsichord. You saved me not only with love, but with faith. Belle reached out, her fingers trembling against his cheek. So, you are. I was once proud, selfish, and cursed, he said. The spell could only be broken by a heart that could see through the beast and choose to love it. In the velvet box, the rose trembled, then burst into brilliant bloom, the final seal of the enchantment. The entire castle transformed. Moss-covered walls turned into gleaming white stone, cold corridors filled with music, old paintings came back to life, and sunlight poured through every window. The castle felt like a soul returned to life. Belle's father was brought to the castle, healthier than ever. Her sisters watched everything unfold, the weight of shame pressing down on their hearts. Belle only smiled. Happiness is not something given, she said. It is something we create from the truth within our hearts. The wedding was a celebration not just of love, but of the strength of kindness and compassion witnessed by everyone in the land. A life lesson for grown hearts. The story of Beauty and the Beast is not merely a romantic song. To hearts that have weathered storms, it reveals something deeper. Appearances are only shells. What is truly frightening is not someone's form, but the loneliness and despair hidden within. A small promise can save a great life. Belle returned not only out of compassion, but because she honored her own word, the promise of her heart. Mature love is not blind infatuation. It is seeing the other person's darkness and still choosing to stay to walk together through it. Happiness is not a destination. It is the journey where two people learn, little by little, to be gentle with one another. And in the end, the beast is not always on the outside. Sometimes it lives within us. Only love and kindness can break that curse. The tale ends, but its echo lingers, a song of faith, love, and growth. For every soul that has stumbled and still dares to believe in something beautiful.